welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming podcast where we share games. I'm your host, Tyler Barrett.
And I'm your host, Zack.
Zack, we've got two really oddball games this week.
Yeah.
One of them turned out to be an absolute treasure, being Outer Wilds, but we're also going to be talking about Zeno Clash 1 and 2, not before we talk about beer. We don't actually have much to say. This is a brewery I've never heard
or
of.
much beer.
Yeah, Zack spilled his glass over there.
It was kind of all over my poor little notebook. My handy
luckily it's still legible.
Drunk book.
Yeah, drunk
Sorry,
book.
that was stupid.
Okay, that
we
was
just keep going.
So yeah, we've not had any beer from them yet. I've never had any. This is a whiskey barrel aged brown by Freedom Brewing.
I really like that.
You do.
I like brown ales.
You do, definitely.
Yeah, this is really nice. It's a little bit. It has that syrupy barrel aged characteristic that typically I'm not a fan of, but it's really subtle here. Doesn't bother me too much.
Yeah, I do think the syrupy nature is subtle. I'd agree.
I wish less of that hitting it up on my legs.
Yeah. I don't have much to say about it. I'm just excited to drink this, and I want a 6-pack right now. I've said this about.
I think I have some left down there.
Yeah, just wring out the towel.
Yeah.
I've said this about a few things.
Each individual leg hair, just give it a little twist.
Oh my god!
It's extra natural flavor.
Smooth. What is this? Like a 7? Let's see here. It's not readily available, and I'm not going to spend too much. What? It's a 12.3.
Are you serious?
It's 12.3.
And 6-pack would be delightful.
Smooth. Oh my goodness! You could drink a lot of that.
Absolutely. That's good stuff. Thank you for sharing.
That is, that's surprising. 12.3. Anyway, let's talk about some video games. Zack, we're here to talk about Zeno Clash 1 and 2 first.
Which I straight up didn't know existed until you said, Zack, we're playing Zeno Clash 1 and 2. I know these guys for, Rock of Ages and stuff, but...
Which is a lot of fun. Yeah,
and I honestly was not expecting anything that happened in these games.
Neither was I. I had no idea.
This is take it away. Just my first talking point here says who, what, how, why.
That's a good takeaway there. So Zeno Clash is a first-person brawler. We don't get much of those. I've
not played a game like it.
Okay, I'll say what I wanted to say in a bit. It's a first-person brawler, but what really got me here, aside from the pretty unique gameplay, I think you don't see many first-person brawlers. Aside from the gameplay, it's the absolute balls to the wall surrealism.
The art design, the world, the characters, the dialogue is just. It's everything you want from a game like this. It is trippy. It's like if you just jumped into a Dali painting, just really...
If you've ever seen the movie Mirror Mask, I think that...
Oh, absolutely
bizarre and really unfathomable.
I haven't watched that in forever.
It's great.
Yeah.
I really love surrealist works, and that's what really pulled me in, aside from the gameplay, as I mentioned. So... that was the biggest draw here. Now,
and remained, I think, through my playthroughs.
Yes. So we're not going to spend too much time on Zeno Clash 1. It's a great foundation for what they're going for. It needs some work, and that's what Zeno Clash 2 is for. So in the first game, we're going to spoil these, by the way. I think now
I don't think it matters for these two, though.
It really doesn't.
You can get the same experience whether you know what's going on or not. If you really care that much, then go play them. But I don't think you're going to lose anything. They're coming from someone who's just a spoiler.
Yeah, he's
coward.
A stickler for spoilers.
And
for sure.
this is not going to affect your experience one little bit. That's not to say it's bad, a bad story or plot. That is the furthest thing from what I mean. Actually, it is just knowing the plot has no effect on what you will take away from this game. Yeah. It just doesn't.
So the first game, its plot particularly, I think is pretty weak.
I liked it.
I wasn't such a fan. it picks up in the second one immediately.
Oh,
like
sure.
Really
it's much
right
more
from where it left off.
Robust, a lot more going on.
It's super cheesy. It wasn't until the very end that they were able to sprinkle in a pretty interesting twist. But you are someone, an orphan, it seems, who has run away from, or is trying to escape the society that their sort of adopted parent.
Yeah, it's like, well, yeah, and at the beginning you believe that it is your parent, and you call it father and mother.
This really tall, lanky bird creature.
Yeah, like there's not just humans. This seems to be just kind of this almost dreamscape of crazy being. I feel like the art designer was just looked at and said, "Listen, Jim." His name's Jim in my mind. Jim, you're good at what you do. Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate that very much. Can you please take these drugs and then come back to us after a week? We'll buy you a cabin, steer some drugs, go draw some stuff, and I will not question anything you hand to me. I will not debate it. Just give it to me, and I will make a model of it in a video game.
That seems about right.
That's exactly what happened. I can feel it.
Weird cow people with 6 to 9 breasts, all like pierced with arrows. Weird like lizard people.
Like the female lead in the game just has these massive ox horns that just stick out. I mean, just feet and feet away from her head.
They're huge.
It's like, how do you get through doors? It's just, it makes no sense, and I love every second of it.
Yeah. Now, the first game doesn't have much to offer. It in terms of mechanics, that is. It's pretty straightforward. It's a first-person brawler. Aim for the face, block, maybe parry.
Yep.
Yeah, you can dodge. Come in for like an uppercut or something. There's a few mechanics there, and you're going from point A to point B. Through these,
and it has some first-person shooting as well.
Oh yeah, you can pick up guns.
And in the first game, it's really not as helpful as you might think. The second game, it's more helpful, but yeah, in the first game, it has its place and it has its moments where it's really helpful. But lots of times, you're just gonna end up hitting them in the face. The game is more conducive.
Or throwing the gun at their face.
Yeah, the game is more
works.
conducive for that stuff. So that's what I ended up doing. And it's a very short experience. It took me about 4.5 hours, maybe 5, to beat the first game.
Yeah, and the second isn't much longer either. So you're looking at probably less than 12 hours.
But
for the
unlike other games where I'm, especially with the first Zeno Clash, I was not particularly engaged by the gameplay very much. It was, it was fun. It passed the time. It was nice enough, but typically any other game where I'm that engaged with the gameplay, I'll drop it. Usually I'll go, okay, it just isn't for me. I could not look away. I couldn't look away from what was going on the screen, whether it be the new areas, the new character designs, the new thing that just happened, someone throwing squirrels with bombs strapped to their back at you.
What is that? Yeah, there's a boss you fight twice in the game, and I'll talk about the second time in a minute.
It's pretty dumb.
So he stands up on tall whatever. He's like on a dinosaur the first time. He's on a dead whale, like a beached whale the second time. But he just throws squirrels at you that have parachutes and dynamite connected to them. It's really weird, and you can shoot the parachutes or throw rocks at them or something to get them to drop down. If they drop down from a certain height, they'll just blow up. Otherwise, they'll run at you, and you've got to kick them if you don't have a gun. But your guns typically don't have enough ammo to just waste on all of the squirrels that are around the ground, so you have to kick them. But looking at the ground and kicking them is kind of difficult.
Yeah, it's not very clean, and it's a small team, very small budget.
Yeah,
for what resources were available, it's honestly impressive. The game that they ended up with.
It's a good foundation.
Yeah,
and I, like you, wasn't particularly engaged, but just could not peel my eyes away from the screen. But I also sort of have an affinity for that sort of nonsense.
Yeah, it's good
and it
stuff.
is that it is nonsense. It just really nothing. It's a bunch of disparate parts thrown together to make weird creatures and weird worlds, and it's just so fun.
Yeah, it's
to be in.
Yeah, and it's honestly, I'll use the word original.
Absolutely.
I had not seen or thought of things like this before. I love stories. I love movies, books, a lot of stuff. I have not heard or seen something like this before.
Father
so.
Mother is a pretty interesting concept.
Father Mother, the Golem.
Yeah.
Golem. I'm reading too much Wheel of Time. The Golem. And his ilk are all really interesting.
So the idea here is to leave the story is you and your girlfriend are leaving the society that your like adopted father mother has created, and it's a lawless society. You want out, not really to like make your own laws. You think everyone should be free to do whatever they want. You just want out of this whatever this city is. Xenozoic, is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Xenozoic. That's a weird name.
Oh yeah,
sure.
that luckily nothing else in the game was weird.
Yeah,
so
everything else is pretty, straightforward.
it's
fine.
just so good though.
So you're going to what you believe to be the end of the world, and there you find this golem. He's a humanoid golem. He doesn't have a mouth. It's really weird. He like still talks, like moves his jaw, but there's no mouth there.
Yeah, it's either covered or just not there. Like it's a very short face. Like it just stops right here for listeners. It's like right where your upper lip starts. There's no jaw essentially. It's very odd.
But he still moves his
it's
face
just
as
bizarre.
though he were talking. It's very odd, but this is a seemingly alien creature, that's weird to say, but this is actually a testament to the art design. It all seems to make sense in its own world.
Oh,
like
for
it's
sure.
pretty cohesive, and the golem is so out of place.
Yeah, on very much intentionally.
Yeah,
and
it's weird that in something like that you can have something legitimately feel alien, but he does. And
that's a good
the
point.
Technology surrounding him does, and he wants to free all of you from the grasp of Father Mother, and so he helps
lawlessness
you.
in general.
Lawlessness. So you don't really know his intentions until later on.
Yeah.
But his intention is to bring law and order, not necessarily his law and order, but just some sort of. He wants to make you a civilized society. And so he helps you get back home, which was not your intent. You didn't want to do that, but he helps you confront Mother
Takes
Father.
you on a magic boat ride.
That was a long time.
That was a long magic
Way
boat
too
ride.
long. So there's a huge exposition dump, and you're just on this boat, basically down the river Styx, and enemies will run up on either side, and you just shoot them. They don't really do any damage.
Yep.
They might throw a rock at you occasionally, but you just shoot them. And you go down the river Styx. You get back home. It's not actually the river Styx, but you get back home and you confront Mother Father. And everyone in this society, most of the people in this society are your siblings, actually. Everyone is a child of the Mother Father. And do we want to really spoil what that stuff is? Okay, yeah, sure. So Mother Father is a weird bird-like creature, seemingly the last of his kind. And I say his kind because it's revealed that he is not a Mother Father. He is just a dying male of whatever his species is. And he sneaks into surrounding tribes and steals babies and then raises them as their Mother Father. And the golem knows this, and the main character that is caught on to this, and he tried to bring this to everyone else. They shunned him, kicked him out, and he just wanted to leave.
Yep.
But then the golem brings him back, and you fight pretty much all of your siblings. You fight Mother Father, and then the game sort of ends.
Yeah, it's really jarring.
Yeah. Now
it ends with this credit sequence of like this statue of the golem in the background, and if they only ever made Zeno Clash 1, I don't think I would have known anything at all.
Yeah. They you mentioned it's a small team. I think it's really awesome how how much they were able to advance the formula, advance the story, and make it, at least to me, actually engaging. The story, that is.
Yeah.
I had a great time with it. It was, it was silly. Some of the stuff was kind of dumb, but I had a great time and was consistently engaged with the narrative of the second one. And it picks up right where the first one left off.
Yeah.
It expands on all of the mechanics, and it really
Much cleaner.
It's much cleaner. Yeah. The first one's pretty rough.
Yeah.
I want to jump back for a moment. I mentioned the squirrel.
Oh,
boss.
yeah. From the first
The
game.
second time you fight him, when he's on I couldn't finish it. I had to stop. I went and watched. I had like 20 minutes left. I was right there at the end of the game, about 20 minutes left. I had to go watch it on YouTube.
He's a really dumb boss.
Because after like 20 tries, I just couldn't do it. You have one of the weirder guns in the game. You lob a rock, and it has an arc, and it does good damage. It's a nice gun. I like to use it. But he's on this giant beached whale on top of it, and this is the only gun you have, and it barely gets up there. The rocks barely get up there. You've got to be in very specific spots to be able to actually hit him. And then, in addition to the many squirrels he's throwing down, you've got crabs that are crawling in from the beach, all hitting you, and it's difficult to look down and kick while you're moving.
Yeah.
And you need to be moving while you do it. And it's one of the most frustrating moments I've ever experienced in a game.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to get to that next boss. He seemed awesome. I don't know what he was exactly, this like masked being. Oh, it was him. When he finally reveals himself.
Yeah.
That's right. The next fight with him, when you actually fight him, hand-to-hand combat. He's really cool. Yeah. But unfortunately, I could not push past that. But
yeah, it was pretty dumb.
Go ahead and tell us about Zeno Clash 2.
Yeah, so I think that Zeno Clash 2...
I'm sad this is gone.
I think that Zeno Clash 2 is what most people should play. If you sound interested in any of this stuff, just play Zeno Clash 2. Don't worry about it. It's pretty easy to pick up on the story, despite how weird it is.
And in fact, I think there's a recap. There's a tutorial recap.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think so. I remember seeing something before you start the game. So you might be just fine picking up the second one.
And I'd encourage you to do so. It's a very short experience. I think I finished it in 5.5, maybe 6 hours.
Yeah, and we both said we wouldn't have finished it if... it was difficult to, peel our eyes away from the screen, to use that phrase again. But I think we may have stopped playing
I'm
if it
talking
weren't
about 2.
for the cast. I know.
Okay, yeah.
If it weren't for the cast. So most people, if they can't already stomach games like that, that are not particularly polished, but it's a unique experience. That's typically why someone's playing something like this. I would agree. Skip the first one, because I don't want you to be put off by the second one. I think the second one is really something wholly unique, and I had a great time with it.
Yeah, I'd play it again.
Yeah,
I would. I think that it's definitely a game worth playing, worth checking out. Again, it really evolves that central art design that was so engaging with the first, but it's also just more fun to run around and beat stuff up. It really is. And
you can run around.
Yeah.
A lot of the first game is sort of a corridor setup, but you've got pretty large open areas. Well, I mean, for the team, like if you consider the size of the team, it's relatively large. The game is in each of the open areas, and it's
and there
a world
are collectibles and stuff,
yeah.
and
you can turn those things in, those collectibles. There's a few different collectibles. You can get upgrades with them. The world is an open world, so you're going to be going in and out of these areas throughout the game several times. There are more weapons. There's better shooting mechanics. The fighting mechanics are
and they
improved.
limit your ammunition in the second game. The first game you have infinite ammo. You just have to reload. But in the second game there is limited ammunition. And the guns are stronger. So you get to kind of think about them a little more tactically. Some more interesting decisions there. There's also a greater focus on these special, unique key items that you get that for example, there's one that you can aim at the sun or the moon with your wrist, a little like gauntlet on your wrist, and it'll call down fire and do big fat damage.
It's so good.
Yeah.
But you do have to line it up.
One of the more
properly.
interesting weapons, you can connect to opponents, and when you damage one, you'll be damaging the other. So if there's like a big baddie that you don't want to get close to, you can just keep linking him to smaller guys that you're taking down and slowly whittle down the big guy's health. I beat one of the bosses that way.
Yeah, if they're the same enemy class or like body type, if they're the same body type, and let's say you do a strong attack on them that flings someone down, if he's connected to another enemy of the same body type, then the physicality of what just happened to enemy A will also happen to enemy B.
So they'll both be prone. You can just kick them to death.
Yeah, it's a great weapon.
I agree.
I think in a later half of the game, you go to another island, and there's just this huge tentacle out like on a separate island. I linked that to one of the crabs, and it comes down and smashes them. It's great.
Yeah, and then it's also holding a little totem to give you an upgrade. And
is that how it? Okay.
Yeah.
I saw that was there.
So you get to think there's a lot. The puzzles are more interesting because of these cool little key items. They're great. I think one of the best innovations in the game are these interesting little items.
Yeah, and you didn't get one of them, right? You didn't get the chain.
I did eventually get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The chain I got immediately. That was the first 3 minutes into the game. That was the first thing I did. It's awesome. It's literally just a chain wrapped around your wrist, and you swipe with it twice, left to right, and it just staggers enemies, pushes them back, and that really set me up for success.
Good for crowd control and stuff.
Yeah, that's a great item.
Yeah, I found myself a lot more engaged because of the just little tweaks. Honestly, it wasn't a fundamental ground up overhaul. They had a good, like you said, they had a good foundation. And they ended up making something that, I guess to use this term, they ended up making something that probably is what they wanted the first one to be. Mm-hmm. You can see they learned from it. And honestly, I think you can see that they would like to have done more with it.
I would love for them to do another one. This has been, I think that came out in 2012. The first one, 2009. I think the second one in 2012. It's been a long time. They have a lot of experience under their belt now. Still making smaller games. They haven't made any. Zeno Clash 2 is still one of the bigger games they've made.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see them make one more effort here.
Yeah, and what would you want to see, I guess? Are there any, what could it offer? What is there in a Zeno Clash 3 that maybe you'd like to see bringing something to the table from what 1 and 2 have already built?
I'd like to see them do some of the things that we've seen Bloober Team do. A lot of weird, haunting effects. They use a lot of particle effects, Bloober Team.
Yeah.
A lot of particle effects, a lot of weird screen distortions. They weren't able to do any of that. Like, you can see the tower. So later in the second game, you go to this place called the Pink Tower, and it's just in this ocean of giant arms that are sticking out of the ground. There's this rainbow bridge that
just
connects.
Beautiful.
It's bizarre,
incredible,
but it's also
static.
Yeah, it's static, but it's got this pixelated effect on it. Like, it's being pulled between two different universes, but that is a static effect on it. It's not doing anything. It's not a particularly interesting animation, but I see kind of what they're going for there. They could do more of that.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see it, look a little more modern.
Okay.
Not because I'm a stickler for graphics, but because I want to see these. I've never seen these things before, and I just want to see more of them. And then, cleaner combat. The second one is way cleaner than the first, and fun throughout, I think. But maybe a little more there.
A little bit more depth for the combat. I feel as though a lot of times, in later areas, I could just run away, use my key items, keep running away, and do that. Maybe find something. I think immediately of the rally mechanic in Bloodborne. When you get hit, you can hit the enemy to regain some health. Something to encourage that aggressive play style
Yeah.
and giving you more up close options than just strong, weak, block, counter, dodge. You know what I mean? Which is still fun. I had fun doing those things and managing the crowd and using my items. But I think, now that they have more experience, I think they can throw in some more interesting either new mechanics or maybe add some different more variety, I guess, to the up close combat.
Now, I have not played this game.
Maybe more variety in the melee weapons, not just the big heavy swinging ones.
Yeah, there's only one style of melee weapon. That's a good
and
point.
then the chain. So like maybe some knives or something where you can really switch up your play. Maybe some RPG mechanics to I'm better with knives than I am with these, or stuff like that.
I wouldn't want to take too much away from the fist to face combat.
Sure.
That's pretty core, but more variety and encouragement for that aggressive play style. Now, I haven't played this game. I know you really like I forget the name now. It's like zombie parkour.
Oh, I was about to say Left Behind, Dying Light.
Dying Light. Isn't there a pretty decent amount of first-person brawling in that game?
A lot, actually. Guns are effectively useless in that game because, sure, they do a bunch of damage, but the second that a zombie hears it, everybody's going to converge on you. So a lot more goes into the melee combat, the bows and arrows, the stuff like that. I think that's an incredibly underrated game.
Is that something you think that they could pull from to
for sure? Maybe not do as in-depth crafting. I feel like that might take away from the core experience. But yeah, there's like you mentioned, the effects, right? There's a physicality to the first-person combat in Dying Light that it just feels good, and it's fun to chunk zombies' heads around and the little blood effects coming off of them and stuff. I think they could learn a lot from that. I think that there definitely are a variety of weapons that all feel very different. The sound design for the weapons in Dying Light is very good. It's interesting you made that comparison, and I wasn't able to, but I can definitely see some effective design choices that could be used in a Zeno Clash, this enigmatic fake Zeno Clash 3 that we're making.
Yeah. So let's focus a little more on Zeno Clash 2. We've talked about the mechanics. All of them are enhanced. It feels like a game that I really want to play. Not just the visuals, but it's a game I had earnest fun with, and I would play it again. The narrative. This is actually one of the more interesting parts of that game to me. Not necessarily what's actually happening, but how they were able to connect it so well to the first one. And even though all of it, the voice acting, the writing quality, the pacing, just all of it is so much better than the first, but still feels like such an incredibly natural progression. None of it is sort of jarring or feels like a brand new game. It does just feel so natural moving right into the second one, as you and I did. And the second game takes some really weird turns. Yeah. So the golem has set up shop, and he's trying to instill law and order and make Xenozoic a civilized society. And he has imprisoned. He's set up a prison, which there was not before. He
said he didn't set it up. He told them what a prison was, and they set it up themselves. Like, he doesn't get directly involved necessarily. He likes to just kind of, go, have you thought of this? Did you think of this? Have you tried this?
Yeah. So the citizens set up a prison and put father, mother in it.
For abducting children.
Yes. That has become illegal. So that's one of the laws.
Good job, guys.
Yeah. You did it. So you realize that this is not what you had in mind. You think people should be free. Your character, who has now sort of made amends with his siblings, and your partner in this game, where it was your girlfriend before, she's left. She didn't really want to get involved with all of this, so it wasn't a very committed relationship to begin with.
Apparently.
But your sister is now your ally throughout the game, and Golem has told, well, anyone who wants to can ask Mother, ask the Golem about their real parents, and many of them do. So the town, while it's bigger to explore, there's a lot of familiar faces that won't be there. They're out in the world. You've got to go find them, and you can gain allies and sort of summon them in combat. Throughout the game here, you've got a few stats you can upgrade. So you mentioned the Kraken. He drops a totem that gives you sort of a skill point, if you will. There's 4 attributes. You've got your health, your stamina, so you're throwing punches, strong hits.
Blocking.
Yeah, blocking. Those things take stamina. You can increase your health, your stamina, your strength, and your leadership. Yeah. So much stronger allies are going to require higher leadership. How high did you get yours?
Leadership?
Yeah.
Just to the first block. So like it's just 1 point for a while, then it costs 2 points, and then it costs, more and more and more. I just got to the first until it started costing 2 points. I got strength up all the way.
Yeah, I got all 3 of the other ones all the way.
Yeah,
and leadership up to, I think, the second one. So I found quite a few.
I found probably less than you then. I got my health and almost all the way, and then my strength all the way, and then I didn't need anything else.
Or maybe the strength was one away from being the highest, but I wanted to get the leadership up far enough to get the really weird character that you find in the golems, like in the end of the world, they call it. Whatever sort of...
It has like this philosopher's statue's face, and it's just,
and like these weird little monkey wings, like from what is the Wizard of Oz. Yeah. And but also seems like sort of, I don't know, it's got some like Eastern design to it. It's very odd. It's really just a mishmash of a bunch of different parts. He seemed really interesting, but unfortunately my leadership was not high enough. So what was I saying? The narrative. You don't want anything to do with this anymore, and in fact think that you should free Father, or does he even have a name?
Yeah, Mother. Yeah, just
okay.
That's
so
what he goes
they
by.
Don't give him an actual name, right?
No, he's just still Mother.
Mother. So you free him, and the golem decides to, I guess, tell the people about courts and public opinion, and Mother's supposed to have a trial. So you're supposed to gather all of your siblings to come and plead Mother's case, and you've all sort of made amends, or many of the characters have, and they found their own parents, but they still want this city, the society that they've built, and Mother is going to rule it, but they are going to maybe there'll be like a council or something to keep him in check. When you do that, Golem is trying to keep you from furthering that cause, because with him gone and Mother back in power, there's no hope for you being a civilized society.
Yeah.
But you want to kill him, and you can't, because at the end of the first game, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I had not seen that before. The Golem breaks his own hand. I think Mother is about to come down with, or no, you're about to kill Mother, and the Golem breaks his own hand, and you and Mother and your girlfriend and your sister, everyone around him has their hand broken, and he's formed some sort of bond between everyone, and you can't just kill him because that bond has been created. So you want to free yourself, and you realize that at the end of the world, that was just north of you. So you explore the rest of the world. You find the east, west, and south golem, and
Wizard of Oz.
And finally you you have this big conflict with the golem, and the link has been broken because of some other forces at play, and you almost kill him, but he's able to get that link back and keep you from killing him, because if you deal that lethal blow, you're done for. And after that, you want to break that link, and he does as well. He's like, okay, yeah, this is not working out. And there's one big surprise here that I think I'll leave. I really liked that surprise. Okay. So when you have that conflict with the golem, I'll leave that one alone. But you go meet the other golems. 2 of them are dead. 1 of them is still alive, and it doesn't really want anything to do with this golem, and doesn't really care for his purpose anymore either, which is to do exactly what the North Golem, the golem from the first game, is doing. He's committed to his cause to make you a civilized society. And the South Golem is like, fine, we'll kill him. But he's going to take over, and now you've got to join forces with the other golem. It's a lot of back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just a wild ride, man.
Yeah, it's a wild ride. There's also a lion artist man.
Yeah, we got to talk about him.
Yeah, if you are listening and not viewing, do yourself a favor. Look us up on YouTube real quick. Skip right over to this part of the video, as we will be putting up some footage of Little Lion Man.
Little Lion Man.
He's probably the most horrifying creature I've ever seen in my life.
One of them. He's up there for me. He's a little dwarf.
Looking at
He's
him
a short person.
Is the equivalent of seeing your grandmother naked.
This might be worse.
No, I think that's totally fair. I just mean, like, it's the same kind of skin crawly shame feeling that I can't describe it. He basically, I mean, if you're on YouTube, you're looking at it. He's got these little kind of, like the little kind of tiny eye magnifiers that you get for looking at diamonds and stuff, but they're like part of his eyes, and they actually have eyelashes in them.
They're like pushed into his face.
Yeah, and he has no arms, just these little, kind of I guess flamingo legs. What are those called? I guess where the knee bends the other way. I don't know what those are called, but
I don't know either.
He's got those, and it almost looks like he's in a lion's like costume.
Doesn't he have big feet as well?
Big, huge feet. Yeah.
Okay.
And
so I don't think he's in a lion costume. I think it is a skinned lion.
No, I really could not tell you, but he basically has these really gross, thin, spaced teeth coming out of his top jaw, but he has no bottom jaw.
No, he does. It's a huge underbite. But on that, and the teeth are pushed through it, is a painter's palette. And so his entire bottom jaw is a giant painter's palette.
With, like, it almost looks like the teeth are just glued by a 5-year-old arts and crafts project.
Maybe. I interpreted it as it's
been
it
is
crushed
but
into
that's
his
what
jaw.
It looks like.
Yeah.
Is like they just randomly stuck these teeth back on, and he's got a paintbrush, and he's obsessed with painting, and he needs the moths.
Different colored moths.
The world.
He gets the powder from their.
He grinds them up
from their wings.
Yeah, and he uses them for paints. And you know what? Let's just leave. This is your little treat.
Yeah.
Find enough moths. It's not like finding all the moths, just enough moths, and
it's 25.
Yeah, and just do it.
25 in total.
Yeah, just do it. I'm not gonna take that away from you.
Yeah, that's another good surprise for sure.
I will never
unsee it.
No, not in a million.
Definitely.
Years.
It's crazy.
My lord, that is. I have here on my little talking points, like, what are the most memorable moments? Nothing beats that moment.
Nothing.
Not
at
a
all.
thing.
Well, I did get a genuine sense of awe when we mentioned the island you go to. I think this is the Eastern Golem. You go to this island, and you're fighting a bunch of like mini golems, just his henchmen. and you go through this cave and out onto the beach. But there's a large rock that separates you from whatever's on the other side of it, which happens to be the like boss arena. But as you come out from there, and just as you turn around the rock, there's this just massive structure, like these two huge rings that have been planted into the ground. So they're really just half circles, but they meet, and all these lasers are dropping, and there's this giant throne that he sits on. It's like,
and his design is amazing. It looks like a hollowed out skull, but there's a seagull that's made nest in it, and it's almost like his face. It's just
because he's dead.
Yeah,
he gets reanimated for the fight, but it's just a carcass. And yeah, this bird has made its nest in his head.
It's so cool. It really is.
That I'll also show some footage of that, but seeing that was like, whoa, that's incredible. But there's another really bizarre character, certainly not on the level of the little lion man, but in the bar that the game starts in, there's some stairs that go up, and there is a cow there, a very large cow wearing a human suit. So he literally just crawled inside of the mouth of a guy, and the guy's head, so the guy's head is like out of his mouth is where the cow's head is coming, and he's wearing a people suit.
It's magical.
And the person that he's inside of
in a people house is literally.
it's crazy. The skin suit he's wearing has like a large ring like you might see on some cows. It's really, really weird.
It's delightful.
That's a word.
Yeah, it's
an
really,
adjective.
Seriously, you will not find anything like this game, for good and for bad. I mean, it's something else.
So this discussion's been a little rambling, not as structured as many of our other discussions.
Yeah,
but
good luck trying to structure this conversation. One thing I do want to bring up though is there a larger audience for this game, do you think, or do you think it's deserves its niche, very small audience?
I think I wouldn't say deserves its niche audience, but it's going to be difficult to break out of that niche audience. Not just because, not because of the mechanics. The mechanics are good here, and you could apply those in other places. You know, you could in a sequel, you could take from some other first-person brawlers and make that a little more robust. But generally, it's pretty off-putting.
Yeah.
I already like that stuff, but I couldn't just hand someone a copy of Mirror Mask and say, hey, watch this, you'll like it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't think there's a larger audience for this. I think as more people play games, the audience will increase, but relatively, it's going to be a small
and I think that's fine.
Subset of people.
I really do.
Absolutely.
I think it's people who really are drawn to this bizarre left field creativity.
Yeah.
Something just new and fresh, and I think it's a worthwhile experience. Seriously, if you have any interest at all, I would highly recommend picking up Zeno Clash 2. It's pretty cheap.
Yeah, and I think it goes on sale pretty often.
Yeah, just seriously, do yourself a favor. It's very, very worth your time.
If nothing else, because I know you're out there, it's an Atlas game, and you're going to play an Atlas game, so go play it.
You Atlas people, I get you. I feel you. Yeah, man, so that's Zeno Clash 1 and 2. Anything else you want to say?
Not really. No, I'm happy we finally played it. It's been in my library for the better part of a decade now. I think I got it in like 2012, soon after release, and it's just been sitting there. So I'm glad I played it. It was, as you mentioned, a worthwhile experience that I can't share with everybody, but for those that are interested, definitely, if you like what you've seen or heard, definitely check it out. It will surprise you in many ways.
Yeah. So I know it hasn't been that long, but I think we should take a quick break because our next segment's going to be a pretty beefy one, I think.
Yeah. So we'll be back in a minute. We just want to take this time to remind you of our Patreon page. There, for $2 a month, you can get access to our Discord server.
Be one of the early adopters.
Yes.
Yeah, that we could use some mods once we start building up a community. And if you're an early adopter, you'd be more likely to be able to help us out. We want people who are willing to help build a community more than just join one.
And a community whose goal is to, as Zack and I do here, share games.
Challenge each other.
Yes. I wouldn't be able to share this game with many people, but for those looking for a unique experience, if you're just asking for a unique experience, I want to share something like Zeno Clash with you.
Open minds, yeah,
definitely.
That's really what we're about, is just being willing to go, you know what, I don't usually like this kind of stuff, but what the hell, let me see what I can find in this.
Absolutely.
And it's and I found something worthwhile, so that's what we really want to build. But like Tyler said, check out our Patreon, get into our Discord. We also have Twitter, Instagram. Make sure to follow us there, give us a like, subscribe, all that BS. We appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
We'll be back. Welcome back to the Unpatched Gaming Podcast. We're still sharing games.
Yeah, and we are going to share Outer Wilds with you guys.
I'm not going to share because Zack didn't want any, but since he drank all my beer.
Or spilled all of it.
The threads on his pants drank all my beer. Hot chocolate it is.
Yeah, man. And that's a great cup for it.
It is.
So Tyler bought this beautiful Annapurna collection. We are not sponsored, but hey, if you want to sponsor us, go ahead.
We're not sponsored. We're just in love.
Yes, correct. But I want to read a quote that was given by the Mobius Digital team, the devs behind this game, for this special edition of Annapurna games. It says, "We created Outer Wilds because we believe that curiosity is the oldest and best reason for exploration. We wanted to create an experience that scratches the same itch our ancestors felt when sitting around a campfire, looking to the stars. So pull up a chair, roast a marshmallow, and plot a course for what catches your eye. The fire will stay burning a little while longer." This is, and like I didn't read. Tyler read this out loud after finishing it today, and that is the description for this game. It really is a game all about exploration. That is the drive that keeps you taking off every single day in this game. So I would highly, more than I ever have before, recommend to you that if you have any interest in Outer Wilds, it's a beautiful game about exploration, about death and life. It's really, I shed a tear at the end of it, honestly.
It's I probably didn't shed a tear only because you were standing right behind me breathing over my shoulder.
Yeah, probably.
But it was coming. It's a very special experience.
So please, and it is fundamental to the experience that you know nothing about any of the puzzles, any of the worlds, anything, how the game works. To go in as blind as possible is fundamental to what this game is trying to achieve. So please, if you have even 0.001% interest in this game, stop. I won't be offended. I will be very grateful if you stop and don't listen to this section. We're going to get to our Hitman segment at the end of this. Skip ahead. We'd be happy to have you there. Just please, this is your chance. It's not even about spoilers. It's about anything at all that you can hear about this game. Please go in as blind as possible. It's incredibly special.
So Zack was with me the last about 2 hours of the game. He'd come over and I hadn't quite finished it yet. And I asked, how do you play this again? And we're not so sure that you can. Not for many, many years anyway. Yeah. And I don't mean, I play Metroid Prime every couple of years. I mean, when you're in a different time in your life. Yep. You won't be able to have any sort of similar experience.
Yeah, and I told him it reminded me of one of my favorite bits in Calvin and Hobbes, where Calvin is complaining about fall time and how, summer's over and it's just a couple weeks before winter, really, if you think about it. And Hobbes just says, well, the fact that it's not always there, doesn't that make it a little bit more special? And I think that embodies this experience perfectly. So go and have it, please. Yeah. I would encourage you to go. But now I get to talk about Outer Wilds.
Correct. Yeah. A game about space exploration. That super high level stuff, but at its core, it's about much more than that.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things, kind of delving into this game a little bit more after finishing it and looking up YouTube videos and podcasts and stuff, is the amount of different takes and takeaways that people had with this game. It's like, walking into a college course on Moby Dick and then walking into another across the hall on Moby Dick, and they're talking two totally different languages.
I'm excited. I've only seen one, to dig into stuff like that. Since I only just finished it, I haven't had to. I'll be going to watch Jacob Anderson's video soon, and I'll probably watch Game Maker's Toolkit again. I saw that one quite some time ago.
Yeah, I rewatched that one as well recently, and wow,
that's it. That's all I knew about the game was he talked about the loop a bit.
Yeah, it's really special. I love this, and I took something of my own. I'm already trying to put as much as I can pen to paper because I know that this experience is short, and this is what I have with it. This is going to be the purest of what I can get from it is this past 2 weeks I've spent with this game. In fact, when I first booted it up, I grabbed a whiskey from downstairs. I actually grabbed the Hakushu 12. I just sat there with just my glass of whiskey, plugged it into the PlayStation, and played it for a couple hours.
For me, it's beer, but same thing. I was ready. I've got a beer full of, well, it's not full anymore, but I do have a fridge full of beer. Special beer, nice beer that we have for the cast. Usually I've got 2 or 3 of each, and I save them for special occasions, starting something like this that I know is gonna be something new for me. I usually crack one then.
Absolutely. I want to kind of take this conversation a little bit away. This is something that I personally took away from this game is I watched my purpose. My video game logic kind of got in the way at one point. It was really interesting. So, you first boot the game up, and that first rocket blast off your planet is so reminiscent of, that first launch to the moon. The first that first successful launch into space, the first launch to the moon, all these different launches kind of all compiled into one. And it's this beautiful experience for you. You're this brand new astronaut, and that sense of adventure and discovery, the desire to see. When I first booted the game up, I'm like, what? There are only 5 planets, or whatever, and 5 locations, maybe a moon here or there. That doesn't seem like much. Oh my God, I was so
it's a big game.
Wrong. It's huge, and so
it's got the planets are small. There's plenty to discover in each of them, but the ideas are massive, and what they're able to pack into each of these worlds is incredible.
Yeah, it's honestly really just baffling to me how much they were able to put into these things, these locations. But that sense of discovery. But as you uncover more about the story and the world and what's going on, you start to realize that you're stuck in this 22-minute time loop, and you always start right back where you first booted up the game, but with all the information, all your memories are intact, and you continue and you keep learning more, and you eventually find out that the sun is exploding, and then you start finding out that every sun everywhere is exploding, and you start to, my video game logic got in the way. I need to find a way to stop this using the alien technology that's sitting around everywhere. That's immediately where my mind went. I was like, I'm going to be the savior of the world. Book of the New Sun stuff going on here.
That's also what I thought. That's, I didn't really connect those dots, but yeah, that's in the beginning. That's what I thought as well.
And we
have to get out of this time loop.
Yeah, and there's some little writings that you find that talk about the sun station, and it's meant to initiate a supernova. You're like, something went wrong with sun station. Like little things that put you there. But it's funny. As you play, there is more and more and more this sense of inevitability, and Jacob Geller really hits this on the head really well. This, on your planet, there's a seed from the dark bramble, which will, from what you learn about the dark bramble, eventually consume your planet and destroy it, blast it to smithereens, into an infinite, tinier and tinier space-time within the Dark Bramble, there are, remnants of a far more intelligent, robust, vast civilization. Not vast, but far more intelligent and robust civilization than your own that was wiped out like that just because of a passing comet. There's, these things that it's in the back of your head that there's no way I can stop the sun from exploding. And you know that. But the time I finally got to the sun station, the first thing it says is, station was in hibernation for all this time after failed test. Reason for waking back up. The sun is about to explode because it's time. Time's up. It's not doing anything. The more and more you dig into the sun station, there's no great reason. The test to initiate the supernova failed. This is just happening because it's time. And it's funny because as you settle into this routine and the little music starts playing to remind you the sun's about to go, every 21 minutes, you got a minute left, it'll start playing this little music. And some characters respond with this manic, what the hell's going on, oh my god, and some don't notice it at all, and some are totally at peace with it. But I got into this routine of just, nope, it's almost time. There's no frustration. I've usually made some progress, and if I get stuck halfway through something, I know the tricks, and I can get there way faster the next time. Like, something has changed. I wasn't frustrated almost ever, and it became part of this routine to just watch everything end, the end of everything, and to be okay with it. And there's something really special about that, because after that moment, I let go of my purpose of saving everyone, and that pure drive to explore and to know took over again. And it's only then that the final pieces of the puzzle start to fall into place. You meet the character Feldspar, who's the most famous adventurer of this planetary expedition force that you're a part of, and he's Indiana Jones level of just this. He's got super great one-liners.
And he's adored by everyone.
Yeah, and he commends you for getting there with him. You feel like a kindred spirit, by the time you finally reach him. And I didn't reach him till after coming to a lot of these conclusions, and he doesn't care that nobody's going to hear his story. He's actually really at peace and content to just stay in the middle of this giant, Odyssean skeleton, this frame of this giant scary beast, and just he's at peace. He's like, I've done something good. It doesn't matter that nobody will know. It's for its own sake, and it puts that into perspective. And to watch my purpose shift from one back to the other, from exploration to trying to save everything to going, no, this is fine. I'm just going to keep exploring it, and the game will let you keep exploring until you decide it's time to stop. It's so beautiful. There's nothing like it.
Yeah.
I've been ranting a long time. That's just something I really wanted to hammer home.
It's a wholly unique experience. No, I'm happy to let you go on, because while I agree with pretty much everything you're saying, I had many similar experiences. As I've said before, you talk real good, Zach.
You also had a little less time to process the ending than I did.
I did.
I finished it,
unfortunately,
yesterday. So
yeah. I'm still processing. Actually, another reason I've been so quiet is because I am still processing it right now. And it is a very special experience. That sense of genuine awe doesn't come often.
No.
And this small team was able to deliver something that I don't, an experience that I don't think I'll have again in a very long time. Now, you mentioned there are like 5-6 planets to explore. Let's talk about those. I'd very much like to. Because one of them is, well, they're all pretty incredible, but one of them in particular really reminds me of one of my favorite movies, being Interstellar. I guess 2 of them actually really give me these vibes. Interstellar. And you and I agree here. This is probably our favorite planet. This is
for sure. Giant's
Deep. So you fly into Giant's Deep, and these are like, just a couple times larger than Mario Galaxy sort of planets.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them is small enough to where, and has gravity weak enough to where if you fully launch your jetpack, you can orbit almost the entire planet. And if you time it correctly, you can orbit the entire planet and even leave its atmosphere to enter the orbit of the neighboring planet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So they're pretty small, but again, really big ideas packed in here. So Giant's Deep, it's just this giant green orb in space, and you're flying towards it. And it becomes obvious that this is a water-based planet. I'm going to be swimming through here. Okay, I'm ready to dive in. Giant's Deep. That makes sense. So you go through the green and realize that this is like a second ocean, like a layer of ocean.
Yeah.
Because the entire planet is filled with these giant vortexes sucking water from its actual ocean up to form a second ocean.
Yeah.
And then there's just a layer with pillars of tornadoes that you pierce the first layer of ocean, and you come down and you see things everywhere. It's this peaceful green ball out in space.
Gosh, it's so
and as soon as you break in there, you're like, oh my God, what is going on?
It's so good.
It's crazy. And then there's this huge, massive vortex is it the North Pole?
Yeah, I believe so.
And a few islands scattered around, and you can explore these islands. For this planet in particular, the exploration of the islands is not the biggest draw.
No.
A lot of the other planets, you're exploring a bunch of different key areas. This is more about the mechanic of the planet, and it seems to make sense.
Yeah.
After you do it first, but it was so rewarding to see that giant vortex, and you can't pierce through it. All the other ones, when you hit them, they throw you out of orbit,
like all the way up out of orbit,
yeah.
and then you fall right back down,
Yeah.
which they will do to the little islands as well. There's actually, so one of the more important puzzles there is to learn more about the memory statues that are sending your memories back to you.
Spoilers for the rest of this game.
Oh, yeah.
From here on out, we've already given the big warning at the beginning, but from here on out,
it's
you're
like
about
big
to mention
time.
some puzzles. If you're
still here,
want to play this game at all, leave.
Yeah, for real.
Just go.
Get away. No, so you go into this. So first of all, there's no way inside the to get into the statue workshop. You could try above, you try below, you try to take the pathways that are present. None of them work. And so the mechanic, we'll talk about this more a little later, I think, but the mechanics of the puzzles require you to know every facet of your tools, to know how the planet works, to know the behavior of just how space works, and how really just everything goes into puzzles.
And it doesn't tell you any of it. You'll
Zero.
learn something about a unique function about planet A at planet G.
Yeah, and it's one of the beauties of the time loop.
It's just exactly. But usually it's just like a line of text or two that you're reading a lot of audio or they're not audio logs, they're text logs. So you're reading a lot. That's where a lot of the discovery for the minute mechanics are going to come into play. A lot of the bigger stuff you can find out on your own.
Yeah, you can just observe and die. Like, you can just die learning how this stuff works, and it's fine because you go right back. The time loop just starts right over. Mm-hmm. Death is not really a setback in this game. Something I really appreciate in a game I loved last year. But I think that it's really awesome to go into that. So for example, the one I was talking about. Well, I can't get into the statue workshop. Oh, it's an ocean planet. I swim under, go up into the middle of the thing. There you go. It's I'm now in the workshop, but oh crap, this planet has double gravity, so my boosters can't get me high enough to get to the next spot. Oh, If I wait long enough, this island will be shot into space where there will be zero gravity. I'll float over to where I want to go. It'll fall back to the planet, and I'll be back to normal gravity and be able to do what I want on the other side of this location. Just wow.
Yeah,
you know?
it's so satisfying to figure those sort of things out. And this is one of the earlier things that you'll probably catch on to, but there's this giant vortex on this planet that you can't pierce through, but you can just leave orbit and come right back down into the middle of it.
So good.
It's such a simple thing, but the satisfaction you get from making these little bitty, and some of them are much larger, but these
There's
little bitty
some real head
discoveries
scratchers.
are great. Yeah.
Like I had a couple that I like banged my head against the wall. They're trying to get into the sun, trying to get through the sun tower on the Ash Twin was particularly difficult for me. That took me a long time to figure out.
So let's talk about the Ash Twins real quick.
Okay, yeah.
Ash Twin is a planet of the Hourglass Twins. There's a rocky formation. There's a planet, a big rock that's basically been dug into
A bunch of hollow canyon like
its entire equator is a canyon.
Yeah,
because sand will drop from the so that's Amber Twin.
Ember, I think, right?
Amber Twin, sure, and that's correct. And from Ash Twin, the sand will drop over the course of this 22 minutes.
Massive,
a huge pillar of sand.
It's crazy.
They orbit each other, and the sand just keeps pouring, and then eventually pours back. Now, in the time loop, you don't get to see it pouring back, but that's the sort of loop that these two planets are in, and over the course of that time, the sand is dropping from Ash Twin and uncovering these technology that they use to teleport all over the solar system.
And at first, it's like, okay, well, if I want to explore deeply on Ember Twin, I got to go fast before everything starts filling up. If I want to explore an Ash Twin, I got to wait until more sand has gone down. But it gets more complicated than that. There's there's a spot where the sand is pouring down, so I can't fly over this little pit where a bunch of cactus spikes are. And I'm like, okay, crap, what do I do? Oh, I can just wait for the sand to fill up enough to cover the spikes so I can just walk over them. Just simple things like that make you consider your environment. I love navigating the dark bramble. You can find spots. There's one, I talked about the seed that was on Timberhearth, your planet. You can shoot your little probe into there, and it'll appear. Your little locator for your probe will appear up in the sky for dark bramble.
So we've got to talk about the idea behind each of the planets. So dark bramble is a seed that has like a little universe inside it, almost seems.
Yeah, like you go through this small opening about as big as your ship, and then it will expand into this massive space. And it's the TARDIS. It's the Doctor's TARDIS, right? It's bigger on the inside, and so you just keep doing that over and over and over again. And so there's a smaller seed that shows up on your planet, and so when you shoot your little scout in there, which we haven't talked about either, you have a little scout that when you shoot it, it will light up areas. It'll inform you wherever it lands. It'll inform you about that terrain. It will mark itself so you can follow it and find it. A couple other things that are just really useful.
Yeah, and you can take pictures while it's flying.
Yep, and you can take pictures when it's stationary. You can turn it around while it's stationary. Front and back pictures. Just really helpful for exploration. Probably my favorite mechanic in the game is the scout launcher. I really like it.
Nice. I didn't catch on to using it as much as I did until the later half of the game.
Same here. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great tool for sure.
And so you shoot it in that little dark bramble seed, and you see someone you're looking for in there. You're like, oh, I'm trying to find that guy. And so you think, okay, how do I get to him? And then you see the marker is actually duplicated. There's one right in front of you in that seed, and there's another one way up in the sky at Dark Bramble. And so you can keep following it through these little, massive space expanding places until you can actually find Feldspar. You end up finding him by, thinking about your probe that way. It's, the puzzle mechanics and the way that it, bends your brain a little bit. Every piece of information is significant in this game. All of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you think you found one that's irrelevant, you're wrong. You're probably gonna need it later, and you should read it carefully. It's really impressive.
Yeah, even something, it's you don't get like some notification that you have unlocked some new piece of knowledge that's going to be relevant later. You just read two characters talking about a 2-second delay between these two teleportation pads.
Yeah.
And that 2-second delay, like it's really seemingly insignificant.
Yeah.
But that 2-second delay is a major catalyst to get into the end game.
Yeah, it's just crazy how much they packed into this game.
So that's 3 of the planets.
So we haven't really talked about Timberhearth, I guess. Yeah, just your home base.
Timberhearth, that's a forest planet. There's some mountains and geysers as well.
It's supposed to be Earth. It has Adelrock is just the moon. There's actually really nothing on it except some old guy whistling.
Yeah.
That's really it. Just Esker, I think his name is, and. Yeah, for real, it's really not much.
You mentioned an old guy whistling. We have not talked about sort of theme of this game yet.
Oh god.
It's a ton of space exploration, a lot of big sci-fi ideas, but there's literally a guy that just made a campfire on the moon and he's whistling and eating a granola bar.
He's planted his emergency trees.
Emergency tree seeds. So they just plant these seeds wherever they go, and suddenly they have some breathable air and they just set up camp. And on each of these planets, you find one of the other explorers who has set up their camp, and you can just sit down and roast a marshmallow in space
and talk to them, and they have
black
so
hole
much
50
personality
feet below you.
Yeah, Ryback is on a planet we haven't talked about yet called Brittle Hollow, and he's this he's afraid of space. He's just he's just an anthropologist who's really interested in the alien race that you're investigating, called the Nomai. And he's just he's a little awkward, he's a little soft-spoken, and he's just precious.
Yeah.
He's just great, and he wants you to tell him everything you can because he doesn't want to go out. And he's like, "What, you did that? That's crazy." Like, he's just great. He's a delight.
And so is Brittle Hollow. So Brittle Hollow is a hollow planet, and its surface is brittle. Oh.
Wow.
Its moon is dropping flaming molten rocks on it, and it starts crumbling. In the center of Brittle Hollow is a black hole, and it's terrifying.
Yeah, correct.
Honestly, like one of the most stressful moments I've had in a video game that I can recall was getting sucked into that black hole the first time.
I can agree with that.
Because you go through it intentionally later on, quite a few times actually, and it becomes less scary. But when you were watching me play earlier, like, oh, can you get it? Can you orbit the black hole? Well, yeah, that's cool once you know how to do it.
Yeah.
But it's like dark and kind of eerie.
It warps space,
as you're walking. Yeah, but as you're walking above it, it's dark and kind of eerie. And I missed a jump, and because you're on the inside of this sphere, you can see every other part of the sphere. So I try to manage my jetpack, the burnout and the fuel, to try to land on a surface way on the other side of the sphere. And I'm getting there, but not quite. I missed that as well. And then I orbit. I hit the black hole, but I just right, and I orbit it, and space starts morphing around me, and the moon drops a rock on some other part of the surface, and it crumbles and just barely misses me, and I see it get stretched and distorted and sucked into the black hole. And if you hit it right, like if you just go into the center of the black hole, it's just going to blink and you're going to be on the other side of the black hole, which we'll get to. But if you are able to orbit it and also hit it just right, everything starts to stretch like a kaleidoscope, and the sound as well.
Oh, it's very good.
And really, like, this was really stressing me out, making me tense up a lot. And then finally you blink out, and I turn around to look at the black hole because I see I'm way far away from everything.
Yeah, like your little ship
solar
marker is like kilometers away. You're like, where the hell am I?
So I turn around, and it's just just blinding white light, but out of it, or this matter is just stretching out of it, forming the whatever structure it was previously. And it's incredible.
And you get to use it in a puzzle in the game. There's a structure that you can't reach. The walkway, the vertical walkway that the Nomai built is broken, so you can't get up there. So you just wait for it to fall into the black hole, and then now it's in space, and you can just freely hop in and explore it. Just wow, I felt so good figuring that out. Like, just hot. Dang, that's a good game.
I'm pretty sure getting sucked into the black hole, just because of how it happened for me. If I had dropped directly into the center and just blinked to the other side, it probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But because I was in sort of that eerie location, and I was struggling and doing everything I can to not get sucked into the black hole and make it to one of the other surfaces, and seeing everything distort that way, this is very likely going to go down as one of the best moments this year for me.
Oh, for sure.
It was incredible. I mean, going into Giant's Deep the first time is also really cool, but it's way more translatable, that experience. Really, I can't stress to you enough how incredible it was to see this black hole for the first time.
And I want to mention, there's all these planets, and you can go to any one. Any of them, right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The second you launch your ship. You can stay on yours and explore that a little more. You can go anywhere. The way the game guides you is really interesting. It's not hard blockers. That's the problem, is after you beat the game, after you know how to do it, you can beat the game in 22 minutes. You can beat it in one loop. You're just done. What's beautiful about this game is the soft blockers. It's knowledge blockers, things that you need to learn by translating the Nomai texts that you find, by putting the pieces of their civilization back together in your head, you have this little rumor mode on your ship's computer log that connects all the dots for you, so you can see what impacts the other and what information you have about it, what you still need to find, that kind of stuff. And it's just really well presented. These soft blockers keep you from finding the late game stuff too early. It's stuff that's obscure enough to where you probably won't accidentally figure it out. Maybe one of them out of 10, and even
if you do, it might be accidental, and you don't know why.
I
figured it out or what the significance is.
The Ash Twin Project room, it's the end game room.
Yeah, it's the last thing you do before the end of the game.
Yeah, and I couldn't figure out how to get back into it, because I didn't do the necessary research and reading yet. So it's these soft blockers guide you and keep you from doing stuff too early, and I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to guide players, and one that I'd like to see more often. I think, and they're not afraid of going, okay, well, now you can't really replay the game, and they're like, that's fine. We've made the game we wanted to play, and you've had this really precious experience, and we hope you hold on to it.
It is precious for sure. Something that I think is sort of a testament to their talent, their prowess, is the balancing here. You talk about the blockers. It's everything seems so naturally paced out, and that seems like it would be a very daunting task. And they're also not afraid to, not pad out the game. If a larger studio had this, I think we would have 20 planets, and we'd have repeat mechanics, and Brittle Hollow.
Probably,
the surface of Brittle Hollow would probably have a bunch of side missions on it. This is exactly what it needs to be. It's no bigger, it's no smaller than what it needs to be, and it's surprising throughout.
Agreed.
Like, really, some of it is absolutely jaw-dropping.
That's a good word for it. Yeah. There were multiple times where I just stopped and said, "Wow!"
Yeah,
like with genuine childlike first time at NASA glee.
Oh my God! The end of the game, dude.
Yeah,
when you get sucked into that whatever it is, when you get sucked into the sky,
and when you drop upwards into the sky, let's just say it for what it is.
Yes, you drop upwards.
What?
You are not sucked upwards, you drop
It's nuts.
upwards.
And just through these like empty chasms of purple and black and what.
Yeah,
And
it reminds me, and I've already said this, but it reminds me of Interstellar. In particular, like this part in particular reminds me of going through the black hole. You know, that movie, it's got some problems. I know a lot of people are gonna call me out for it. It's one of my all-time favorite movies, just because it offered some of this sort of awe.
yeah.
And getting sucked into the black hole when the ship goes past what is that called, the event horizon in Interstellar, was like dropping upward through the sky here.
It doesn't help that you're already talking to a guy here who every time I go to NASA and I read they have the shuttle. Sorry, not the shuttle. They have the actual rocket, and they have along the wall every Apollo mission. And I just, not like a couple manly tears, like break down weeping. That's the kind of person I am. And so playing this game, it's everything. Everything I could have wanted it to be. So I feel you, just from a different space, for sure.
Sure.
Yeah, you don't want, my wife is like super embarrassed every time we go to NASA at Houston. She's like, "Oh, are you gonna read those again? Please don't. Like, I can't handle this right now." And I'm just like, red-faced, puffy, tears streaming down my face. So beautiful.
I've never been. I do get that way though.
Yeah, you should
definitely. You know, at times that aren't particularly emotional. In what was the movie that came out 2 years ago about the first moon landing?
First Man.
That seems right. You know, lifting off for the first time is such an incredible thing, not just for the character, but just for humanity.
For just people.
It's such an incredible feat.
It's like the question, is like, well, why did we do it? And it's like, I would just answer, play Outer Wilds. Like I think that's a totally valid. I think this game captures that spirit of adventure, of exploration, of discovery.
Well, sure. I mean, that's what they said they were going for.
They said they were going for, and they nailed it.
Yeah.
I seriously, can't praise enough.
On the music, we didn't talk much about the music.
Yeah. Okay. Let's. You have a little.
Do what?
I just wanted to mention, you have a little radar that you can like point at things and attune to different frequencies. You can find quantum fluctuations. You can find, a couple of distress beacons. But one of the coolest is Outer Wild Ventures. That's the I guess program,
the radio frequency,
that you're a part of, and is called the Outer Wild Ventures. And there's a frequency associated with it where you can hear every explorer who's gone into space has their own instrument, so you can find them when you land on the planet. Basically, Ryback has his banjo, Feldspar has his harmonica, Chert has his drums, Gabbro has his little flute, stuff like that. And so, sorry, keep going.
It's not something that you would expect, given the theme. We're talking about campfires and marshmallows and just being under the trees and under the stars at night. It is
watching the sun explode,
banjos and harmonicas while the sun is exploding. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it brings that beauty, that sense of beauty into it. It's
who's the guy on Giants Deep again?
Gabbro.
Yeah,
they're all named after like rocks, I think.
Oh,
like
interesting.
I know that Feldspar is a type of rock, and I know that Ryback's a type of rock.
Okay,
so I think that's what they were going for.
Probably. So he's just set up a hammock, and that's what he does now. He has no intention of going home. Yeah, but he's also stuck in the time loop.
He's the only other guy from your species who's stuck in the time loop. Yeah.
So he just lays there and he plays his flute, and every 10 minutes or so his island will get thrown up into space, and he's like, okay, time to close my helmet, and then he lands back down, and that's it. He's like totally cool with it. And unfortunately you didn't get this until the end of the game. If you talk to him enough, one of the dialogue options is to be like, hey dude, why are you so chill all the time. He's like, let me teach you to meditate. That's basically the suicide button, which makes sense in a game like this. Once you've done what you can, or maybe your ship has been destroyed or something, you've still got 22 minutes left. What are you going to do? You meditate until the next cycle.
Yeah, or fly into the sun.
Or fly into the sun, but you might have gotten sucked through the black hole.
Sure, you're really far away.
But you currently have a full tank of fuel and air, so you can either wait out the rest of the time or try to drain these resources until you die. That it just takes too long. So of course they implemented some sort of button like that. In this case, you just meditate until the end of time.
Yeah, which is just 22 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
It's I like his I like all the characters quite a bit. And in fact, they're very integral to the ending of the game. Their music and the idea of harmony there, of connection. It's oh god, it's so good. It's so good.
I'm excited to read your piece.
Yeah, I'm working on a little writing piece, trying to preserve the moment, because I know I won't be able to fully recapture it ever. Yeah. So I'm just trying to write some stuff. So it's gonna be a little shorter.
Should go back
but
and play that ending again.
I probably will. Yep. Oh my gosh.
I think I will tomorrow. I still have to capture some footage for it.
It's so good. Yeah, so I did want to touch base. So we talked a lot about the planets. We mentioned the Hourglass Twins. We mentioned Timber Hearth, Adel Rock. We mentioned Brittle Hollow and its moon. We
haven't mentioned anything about the quantum mechanics.
Oh, we haven't. Let's do that first. So
that's one of the biggest things happening in the game.
Yeah,
is the quantum mechanics.
These are some of the most interesting, and you have to really. They're hard to learn on your own, honestly. You're probably gonna need some advice from the text that the Nomai have written about it. But I love seeing how they work. Like the first time you see it, you go into this little museum exhibit, and there's a rock on this pedestal. But if you ever look away and look back, the rock is on a different pedestal. The idea being that it's a macro version of quantum mechanics, where it is in every state until it is observed. Right, so it's in all of the states until it's observed, and so this applies for like the one of the first lessons you learn is if you want to be able to engage with an object that you have to look away from, if you take a picture of it with your probe camera,
you're still observing it.
And so it stays where it is.
Yeah.
Another one that you picked up way faster than I did is if you ever can't see, like it goes dark, your flashlight's off, and you're standing on top of, or in any way connected to a quantum object, you will travel when it travels. You've stopped observing it. When you open your eyes back up, you're observing it, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're in the same place. You've become entangled with the object. It's crazy. Some of the puzzles that they do with this stuff are boggling. Just some of the most interesting puzzle designs, just with these rocks. It's so cool. And sometimes I found on Timber Hearth a little glade that just is affected by like everything, the trees, the signposts, everything's just affected by this quantum rock. All of the stuff around it has become quantum. Yeah, and there's no purpose. There's no reason. You don't get anything from doing this. There's not even my text to read. It's just
there is stuff to find actually inside of the geyser. You drop down in there.
Yeah, I just meant in that grove specifically. There's nothing that is super significant because you can get to that spot.
There's a few places you can.
Yeah, so I just mean the grove it's just there, and it's just interesting, and you can bring it up to Gabber. He's like, yeah, I put those signs there, and it's just little things like that. It's beautiful. But yeah, the quantum stuff's really cool.
Yeah, and one of the biggest mysteries in the game is the quantum moon. There is just a ball of gas that will, just like any other quantum object, when you look at it, it's there. When you look away, it moves somewhere else. Excuse me. It's a moon, though. And so it'll
like an actual landable, onable moon.
Landable, onable moon. Correct. If you observe the laws that you have learned, the quantum rules, and that being the first one being viewing it with a picture.
Yeah.
So to get onto it, you've got to take a picture of it, and that way when you pass through the gas, you're still looking at the surface of the moon, and it's not moving.
You don't lose sight of it.
Yeah. And then suddenly you're on its surface. But its surface takes on the characteristics of whatever moon or whatever planet it's currently the moon of. And so there's just like anything else, because these items like trees and rocks and mountains are near or in this case on the quantum moon, whenever you're no longer looking at it, it moves around. So eventually you can find this tower, the quantum tower, a lot of quantum, and in it
sounds like just a word that some kid would tack on to something to make it sound cool, like, oh, this isn't, a story about bunnies. It's a story about quantum bunnies. Like,
yes. Inside the tower, it tells you that to actually get to where you want to go, you need to learn the laws of quantum interaction.
Yeah.
And here, you need to learn 2 of them. So to get on it, you need to learn viewing. So quantum, what is that called? Is it viewing or imaging? I guess imaging. And then the other one is entanglement.
Yep.
That being when you're no longer observing it, but touching it, you move with it. So you're looking inside of this tower, and there's a map showing you which planet it's currently orbiting. But if you turn your flashlight off and back on, it moves. So you can go out to the surface, and suddenly it's a whole new planet. It's taken on the attributes of whatever it's currently orbiting. And the goal there is to get to the North Pole. You start at the South Pole.
Yeah.
And through a couple of other things, you can get to the North Pole. I don't really want to talk too much about that.
Yeah, it's fine.
Even if you weren't interested before, and maybe you are now, but are still listening, this is really when the end of the game starts to come into focus. It isn't the end game, but it really starts to come into focus here.
For sure.
And some incredible things happen. So won't go too into depth about what else happens on the quantum moon, but these sort of mechanics are seen throughout the game, and you've got to play with them in different ways. And really, it's kind of creepy.
It's very unsettling.
Rocks are unsettling for sure. You're getting, I say that a lot, for sure.
For sure.
They really capture the monolith in the feeling of the monolith.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
That's what's going on.
That's a good point.
And yeah, it's done very well. And one of the creepier moments in the game is when you're learning quantum entanglement, and you find the rock in there, you turn your flashlight off, it disappears. You read some of the text that say if you stand on it and do exactly that, you will move with it. But because everything else is also being affected by the presence of this, the shard of the moon, so it's a quantum shard, they also just move. So I was sort of observing the rock and flicking my flashlight off and on. And like many of the places where you're learning about this stuff, there's skeletons of the Nomai, the previous race. And when you walk in, I think you first see them all on the ground. And the first time you turn your flashlight off and on, or there's a light in the room that you can turn off and on, they are posed around the room. And you do it again, and they're posed randomly around the room. And
they've taken on quantum characteristics.
So I was observing the rock and flicking my flashlight off and on, and I don't think this is scripted. I think I was just standing in front of one of the spots that they spawn, but it spawned right in front of me and was a genuine jump scare.
That's awesome.
It's really, really good stuff. But I don't actually have much more to say. We've really gushed over this game.
I think that one thing I would like to touch base on real quick is just how important the loop is and how well it's used. Mark Brown obviously does a way better job than we ever could. You should totally watch his video on it. But so much would be lost without it. The feeling that death isn't an impediment to your progress. The feeling that these events are happening with or without you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All that stuff goes into the time loop, and itself is used as a mechanic to solve puzzles and think about the game and the story. So
everything is involved here. As you said in the beginning, if you think you learn something that's probably insignificant, you're probably wrong.
I even thought at one point that I needed to use my ships. When it takes a certain amount of damage, it explodes. I thought I was like, oh, I bet I can use that to do this. Like that didn't end up being the case, but that's how much this game makes you include everything at your disposal in your thought process for these puzzles. It's crazy.
I suppose you could in that final area with the anglerfish. You could just go and keep going as your ship explodes.
That's true. I honestly don't know. I'm sure someone's found a good use for it.
The first time I got it, I mean, you were with me the first time I got in there. I was fortunate enough to be able to maneuver correctly, but I just booked it because I knew my ship would explode and I would be in that space. So you could do something with
Probably.
it, but it's not explicitly involved in anything.
Sure.
You're right. Go ahead and wrap us up, man.
Yeah, this is a really special game. My last little note here just says the end of everything, and that's what this game's kind of about. It's about the end of everything. It's also kind of about the start of something new, and it's a really precious game to me. I recall a moment where I called you. I was probably 10 hours into the game. Maybe not that much. And I was like, yeah, man, I was expecting to put this as like one of my top 10 favorite games. That's what I thought I was going to get from it. And yeah, it's not quite that good. It's really good. It's just not quite that good. And every hour I put more and more into it, the higher and higher it grew in my mind. I cannot express how well designed this game is and how it just keeps delivering on itself. The more time you give it, the more it gives back. It's an experience I will not forget.
Absolutely. Well, I'm happy we finally got to share it.
Yes, finally. Good stuff.
But I think that's it for Outer Wilds. We're gonna put it away for quite some time.
Manly tier.
Correct. It doesn't have to be a manly tier, just a tier. Just a genuine tier. But taking a very sharp turn.
Very sharp. Yeah. This will be interesting.
Let's talk about killing people.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, it's great. So over the course of the year, we're going to be playing through Hitman 1, Hitman 2016, all the way through to Hitman 3. And we're going to do one level every episode of the podcast through Hitman 1 and 2, and then we'll end with a full episode on Hitman 3. So we're on episode 2, level 2 of Hitman 2016.
Yep, Sapienza.
Sapienza. I expect this one to be one of my, one that I remember more fondly.
I agree. I had a blast with this one. I spent probably an hour and a half before I actually did anything useful. Just exploring.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta learn a lot.
And it's a huge level, like even bigger than the first episode. It's just huge level. And again, not empty. There's just always stuff around the corner. It's so funny where you'll find it's always in a logical place, but surprising. I remember I found a guard outfit just in a dressing room at one of the small shops on the coast, like pretty far away from the mansion where all your targets are. But the guard had obviously gone and bought a change of clothes, and just he left his guard outfit there. He'd forgotten it in the dressing room, and so you can just go, put it on, get into the mansion, and you're good to go. It was.
That's pretty cool.
It's just, logical but interesting. It rewards you for thinking outside the box and just looking around. I was really happy with that little find.
So You mentioned you wanted to do the golf ball kill.
Yeah, and I didn't do that.
That's
actually.
the first one I did, and I'm gonna go back and play one more time as well because I a lot of my footage for this episode was ruined, but for both Hitman and Outer Wilds, so I've got to go back and capture some more. I'm excited to play at least one more time.
Yeah.
But that's the first one I did. I got into the safe house, which has the explosive golf ball, and one of your targets has a golf lesson every afternoon, and you can catch him on his golf lesson. You can do a few things. You can either disguise yourself as his instructor, maybe like a substitute instructor or something, or if you can sneak onto the course when there's no guards looking, you can put down an explosive golf ball, and he'll hit a couple balls and eventually pick up the explosive one. And I'm just waiting behind a bush, so giddy because I know exactly what's going to happen.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's just like some ragdoll physics accidentally kicked in or if this is intended, but just a huge explosion with him flying way into the sky. And I don't mean like Skyrim giants flying into the sky, but just like 15 feet high. And then everyone is like, oh my God, what's happening? And some guards rushed over to help. They put him in a body bag. And then I snuck behind some bushes and went over and stole his clothes from the body bag.
Oh, that's so awesome.
No, I don't think you can do anything with them. But that was so great.
Yeah, I think one of I had found there's a little kind of broken down old castle across the there's kind of like a little bridge to it going from the mansion.
Yeah.
And there are some cannons there that if you have
I haven't been
gunpowder,
over there.
you can load it's pointing right at where he golfs. Like right, it's just like it's begging for it.
That's so silly.
And so you can launch it at him, and it's just a like puff in the distance. It's really satisfying, especially because everybody's like, "How did that? What a tragedy! How could that have happened? Oh no! It's just such a shame that cannon was still loaded. Oh, a true tragedy!" And you're just like walking away from the cannon.
And there's some, I guess more traditional ways of killing people.
Sure.
You can poison soup and glasses and things like that, but this stuff is so fun.
Oh, absolutely.
So I've killed his wife?
I think it's just a research.
Okay.
A doctor. A research doctor.
Oh, I thought they were involved in some way. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I've killed her twice, and the first time I disguised myself as the golf instructor who she's having an affair with. So I'm pretty sure that they're married and she's having an affair. So I was able to get into his room. Now, obviously, she knows that I'm not him, but I was able to set some stuff up, get some guards away, turn on some music, light some candles, and just sit down in the chair. And this music, it's for someone who's ready for sex.
Yeah.
This music is...
That's amazing.
Like the Paper Mario coffee music.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what I would have thought of.
So you're just waiting in this chair, lounging, waiting for her to come in, and she's like, "What?" And then you just walk over and take her out.
That's amazing.
That was fun too. But one of my favorite times in this level so far has been disguising myself as a priest. Did you do this?
No, I didn't. This is one of the next things I want to do is go in and find. There's someone who's doing a confession. You can listen in and do all that stuff. So I would like to, though. That seems interesting.
Yeah. So you go to the confession, and it's a scientist whose friend has died. Doing the research that they're doing, and she's asking for forgiveness for doing the research, and then she goes to see his body. So you first have to disguise yourself as one of the groundskeepers, then get into wherever she's, I don't know what the building is called, but wherever she's viewing his body, and then you can take her out, take their clothes if you want, take their key cards, which that's the biggest deal. And I did disguise myself as one of them, but I got caught. And so I'm running around, and finally I'm like, sorry, dude. So I take out the priest.
There you
and
go.
I dress myself as the priest.
Amazing.
And you just look so badass as the priest. And I walk out of there, and on this sunny afternoon in Sapienza, just walking down the street in my robes, and I turn down an alley, and I see this dude sleeping there. And I didn't realize that this was one of the like mission points. But there's this dude sleeping.
He's the PI.
Yeah. And I sit down next to him, and finally I realize, oh, this is the PI. So I just flip a coin, and he wakes up. He's like, what? And he walks away. And I sort of like skulk in the alleyway, this priest skulking in the alleyway. And I take him out, and then I pull him behind a dumpster, and I change disguises to be the PI. And it's so satisfying. Just like it's this arched alleyway. It's super dark in here, but the sun is shining in from the edges. And to walk in as the priest in one side and walk out as this like hipster PI. And then you can take out the woman that way. She's okay. She's going to come and give you some information, or get some information from you, I think. And you have a private conversation with her, also in an alley. You take her out. So I go back to get my priest disguise. And once again, walking in as a hipster PI, and so confidently walking out as this priest.
That's
so
legendary.
Satisfying, and just looked cool.
Yeah, that's what I like about these games.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's little dynamic moments that are just really, really cool.
And I haven't played it in almost 2 weeks now. I mean, it was the first thing I played for this cast. So I'm excited to go back and play it one more time to get that footage.
Yeah.
But
I killed someone with an exploding rubber duck.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was really, really delightful.
How did that happen?
I got an exploding rubber duck and I threw it at them.
Oh, okay.
It was very simple, actually.
You know, there's a lot of fun stuff to do on the surface of this level, but the third target is a chemical they're making in an underground lab.
Yeah, which is interesting. It's not a person.
Yeah, I found it to be kind of boring.
Oh, I liked that. There are multiple ways to get in there. You don't even need a key card, actually. There are ways to get in without a key card.
And I did get in without a key card. So boring might be the wrong word, but it's kind of a stark difference from what you're doing in the rest of the level.
That's fair. I think it was a nice change of pace, but it's definitely a lot. It's not quite as, because it's not moving. It's not it doesn't have routines. It's just there.
Yeah.
But you can it's fun to distract people. You can poison the rats in the corner, and he'll be over there for a while trying to figure out what's going on. And I found it fun enough. I honestly just like that area. There's this whole underground lab. There's the ocean comes into it a little bit. It's a beautiful little designed area, and I took one of the scientist outfits from someone, and I would just so I play a lot with my buddy Justin, and it's the adventures of John Hitman. And so I basically grabbed the science, and I had a hammer in my hand. I was like, excuse me, on my way, must do some science. Yes, excuse me, there's some science over here. Do you like oh, I love science. And I would just, and then of course they see me throw the hammer at someone's face, because how can you not? It sounds so
satisfying.
Good. And so I have to quickly change outfits into the hazmat guy. I'm like, oh man, science is super, super scary. Super, oh wow, super dangerous. Do you science in there too? Oh my god, so much science. It hurts. And so I would just go in and be stupid. It's way too much fun.
It's a well-designed stealth area. So boring is the wrong word, but it just the freedom you have on the top and the fun you can have is very different from the more serious tone of the underground lab, and kind of the more straightforward stealth gameplay.
Yeah,
there's not many ways you can get in there and destroy it.
There's just a couple ways. Yeah,
In fact, I think there's only one way into the actual room, and then there's one way you can destroy it outside of the room.
That's all that I know.
And there's obviously an optimal path inside. It doesn't invite too much variation.
That's fair. I totally get that.
But the rest of it, the other two targets, I think they're man and wife.
Man and wife.
I think so. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Justin and I wasted so much time on this level. I mean, just so much time.
Oh my god, what I'd love to do, I don't know if you can do this, but his dad has died. The target's dad has died, and you can't. So there's a flower delivery service.
Yes.
On their way into town to deliver flowers just for him. Like on the weekends, he goes to see his dad's grave, which is on the estate. It's on the property, but they've broken down. The truck is broken down. You can steal some flowers and put them. They should already be at the grave when he gets there, so you can put them there, and he'll be alone at that time. I wonder. This would be incredible if, like, his dad's room was still in the estate, and you could get his dad's clothes and like somehow convince him
that would be
his
awful and wonderful.
And then I've got
I wouldn't be surprised. These games have such a great sense of humor.
Yeah, there's I don't know what to do with it yet, but when I ended my last session, he was my last target. So I took the woman out first, then I did the chemical, and he was my last target. And I went into his like research room, his little lab, which is just in the mansion proper. And there's like in the corner of the room, it's given a lot of space. It's on display, a like plague doctor suit from Assassin's Creed, it seems.
Yeah.
And you can get in that and just stay there like you're on display, and then later kill him. But I don't know how exactly to get him alone, or maybe to get him to come over. Because you've got these like really cool daggers.
Yeah, I was
It's really weird.
experimenting with that too. That's another way
I just like
to
walk around town with it.
Dude, yes. And then swap it for your priest outfit every once in a while. That's so good.
So to catch footage, I think I'm gonna just redo that priest thing just because it's cool.
I think
cool.
that's valid. Fair. That's fair.
Well, I don't have much more on this. Unfortunately, I didn't play very much because this was so good.
Yeah, Outer Wilds definitely took the majority of my headspace, but yeah, no, I really enjoyed this. I'm really liking my time with Hitman. I feel like it's gonna keep getting better. So I'm excited. But I think that's it for the cast, man.
All right,
it's a good one.
Absolutely. Once again, go play Outer Wilds. If you're still here, give it a shot. It's really something special. Killing people's fun too. You know, we've said it here a bunch of times.
We've said it here. We've said it here first. Go kill some people.
Go kill people in Hitman. Yeah. But thanks for joining. Thanks for listening or watching this long into the cast. What are we at, like 2.5 hours now?
I don't know.
It's been a hot minute. But thank you for joining us here at Unpatched. Do check out our Patreon page. For $2 a month, you get into our Discord, where we're trying to build a community to, just like we do here, share games. Just with open-minded people who want new experiences. So come join us there. And if not there, Twitter and Instagram as well. And yeah, that's about it. Oh, since if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe, please. If you stuck around this long, I don't know how else we're going to get you to like and subscribe if you don't now. But we would very much appreciate it. It does help us a lot. And on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us, a review would also be very much appreciated.
A positive one, if possible, please.
Yeah, positive one. Definitely.
No, however you feel. I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah, I would say positive one. If it were negative, just tell us on Instagram or something, or on Twitter.
Yeah, lots of people yell on Twitter.
That's
really what it's for.
That's a good place. If you want a negative comment, let's just go to Twitter. Go to Twitter.
You're beautiful either way, though. We love you.
Absolutely.
Bye.